Good evening. My name is Tom. I come to you from the Rustic log cabin in Northern Maine. Welcome to my cabin tonight. Windy, just got in off the lake. Time to start thinking about supper. You maybe can hear the wind in the background. It was some windy out there. Managed to catch a couple salmon. One small one keeper. And then I headed for the truck. I have a very, very simple recipe for rhubarb pie. And that's why I figured I would dig it out here tonight. The cooking here at the cabin I try to keep simple because simple means I've probably got the ingredients. And this is 3 ingredients and you've got yourself a pie. So it doesn't get much simpler than that. You can do it on a canoe trip. You can do it out of a tent. I don't care what you're doing out in the woods. Making a rhubarb pie is very simple. Now here, I have fresh rhubarb. I've been on canoe trips before where I brought my rhubarb with me, all packaged up. 3-4 cups in a package, enough to do a pie. It's one of those treat things. You know, we used to do 10-day fishing trips up on Matagamon Lake. We'd be out there for 10 to 15 days. So at one time during the 10 to 15 days, we'd make a pie. So I kind of do the same thing here every once in a while. Right now is the rhubarb is up, so it's a good time to have rhubarb pie. You can have strawberry rhubarb, you can have blueberry rhubarb, any kind of fruit you can imagine you can put in there. You can put diced apples in. It's just equal. 2 cups of strawberries, 2 cups of rhubarb. But I like just plain straight rhubarb. So I'll run in this, and I always keep about 3 of these on hand. I can make a pie crust and all of that, but this is late in the day, so I want to be quick. No fuss, no muss. I want to get this going and we'll get it in the oven so that I can cook my supper later on. So having one of these graham cracker pie crust around is handy for this. Like I said, there's only 3 ingredients. There's going to be 3 cups of chopped rhubarb. There's going to be 1 cup of sugar. And there's going to be 1/4 cup of 1-minute tapioca pudding. It's in a little red box. And I also keep a box of this on hand. This is 1-minute tapioca pudding. What it does is it helps break down the rhubarb and it helps as a thickener in there. Very easy to keep on hand. It's dry. You put it on the shelf, you forget about it. It's no more than a spice up here at the cabin. And I'm going to have 1 cup of sugar. I'm going to put it in this bowl, stir it all together, let it set for 15 minutes, leave it alone. And then after 15 minutes, we're going to take it out. We're going to put it in that pie crust. And then we're going to bake it at 400 degrees. I think it was. Let me see. I don't have my glasses on. We're going to bake it for 45 minutes at 400 degrees. Or until you see it start to bubble. You don't need to put a pie crust on top of this. If you're making a pie, you definitely can put a pie crust on top. But make sure to put some breather holes on the top, because what's going to happen is that thick mixture in there is going to start to bubble. It's going to slowly bubble. It's going to want a way out. So if you have a crust on top, you got to poke a bunch of holes in it so that the gases can escape. But I always, even if I put in a bottom layer pie crust, I don't put a top crust on anyways. So I like to be able to see the rhubarb. But what a beautiful night here at the cabin. I'm going to get this in the oven. You don't eat the leaves on a rhubarb. And the other nice thing about rhubarb is nothing else eats the leaves. This rhubarb is not bothered by the wildlife at all. Not even a little bit. So I transplanted some more rhubarb this week. I had a couple of bass. I had a couple of salmon guts that I put down there, so we'll see if that other half of rhubarb plant can grow as good as last year's did. So that's all you do. Now you split it down the middle. That part's done. It must be time for coffee. I am on, let's see, 1, 2, day. I am on day 5. I'm on day 5 of a 12-day trip in here. So, 12 at least. I don't really have a cutoff on the other end. As long as everything's going good at home, I could stay here a few more days. Supposed to be cloudy tomorrow, probably no wind, so that'll be a great day to be out in the boat. Get your coffee, get your coffee. Later on, you'll be able to stop in for some rhubarb pie. I think that the sugar helps break down the... It's hard in here because it's stored in here. But I think the sugar helps break down the rhubarb as well. So there's the sugar. And here's the tapioca. We'll go after the loose stuff first. How's that? And there's the tapioca. So the rhubarb is in there. The 1 cup of sugar is in there. The 1/4 cup of tapioca is in there. So now all I'm going to do is stir this together. That's it. We just let that sit for 15 minutes. Now while we're doing that, last week when I made the deer meat pie, I had some people ask to show the oven, because by the time I got baking the deer meat pie, it was pretty dark in the cabin. So I don't do much video in there because it's so dark. But this is the oven. So you know, it's just a Coleman camp oven. You set it right on top of your Coleman stove. here at this cabin. I can set it on the Coleman stove, or I can set it in the set it on top of my gas stove that's in the cabin. And the other thing, I could make that pie in a Dutch oven. But usually late in the day, you know, after fishing and all of that, I try to keep everything simple, so this keeps it simple for me. It's got one rack in there. I put foil down on the bottom just to keep the bottom clean, and I can change out the foil when I need to. And that's it. So it doesn't get much easier than that for a pie. So, have a cup of coffee with me. One more. This is just one more recipe that you'll find in Papa's cookbook. Boys, hint, hint. Papa's cookbook. When I get too old to cook, I want them boys to cook me a rhubarb pie while we're sitting here. When they're up next week, we're going to cook a rhubarb pie. That way they can start getting the feel for it. And you know, while this is setting like this, it's good to throw in a couple extra pieces. Because let me tell you, you take that out of there, that is something good. If you like rhubarb. Now, I've let this stand for about 10 minutes now. When everything went in there, it was very dry, no liquid at all. And now there's all kinds of liquid. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes. And I'm going to put it in that pie crust and put it in the oven. All right, I'm back. The rhubarb has been standing for at least 15 minutes with the sugar and the tapioca. And it is nice and wet in there. It's breaking down the rhubarb. So I think this stuff is ready to go in the pie plate and then into the oven. Like I said earlier, if you've got a camp and you want to be able to make a really simple pie, put yourself in a patch of rhubarb, put a couple of these in your go bag when you headed out. This is very simple to make, and then you too can have a very good treat while you're at camp. And that's exactly what this is. And with these pie crust around, it doesn't get any simpler than that. I was drinking coffee and making videos while putting this pie together. I probably just got a small patch right now. Another year it'll be bigger. I want to save some for next week when the boys come up. I probably could have stood another stalk. But that's all right, we'll make that do. Rhubarb pie. I'm going to go in and put it in the oven. And when it's finished, I'll bring it out here and we'll have a piece together. Right after supper. Might as well get the meatloaf out of the way. Doesn't that look good? Nice and hot. I probably left it in a little too long for the graham cracker crust. But I don't care about that as much as I care about that filling. So we put that in there. Pretty difficult so far now, isn't it? Anyways, you guys have a great night, and I will see you in the next one.